Hi everybody, thank you Georgina. Yes, I've got a daughter Natalie who's 23 years old with Prader-Willi syndrome, and you probably saw her arguing with me about whether or not the salads made up the other half of the roll for lunch today. Now I'll just get my presentation up, if I can find it. Forgetting what I'm doing. Thank you. Thanks. This is it. So this is my presentation about living with an adult with Prader-Willi syndrome, and I'm talking about transitioning from school to adult services. And this is just based on our experience, but I thought I'd just take you through a couple of things first with Nat. The background is she was diagnosed at 3 weeks with a deletion. At 2.5, she started putting on weight with the same kilojoules. At 3.5, she became very interested in food. The treatments that we used were physiotherapy and speech therapy. She had 2 years of growth hormone, but Nat was too tall to qualify for the government scheme, so it cost us $30,000 for the 2 years, so that was all that she got. But that made a huge difference for hands and feet. And also, just as, it was great for the height as well as far as gaining weight. Nat's been on CoQ10 for almost 15 years now. I don't know whether there's some parents have not found it very handy. For us, it's been fantastic for her with her energy. And we can actually tell the difference between different brands of CoQ10 a day after her taking it, because you can see the difference in the levels of energy. So that's been something that's been fantastic for our family. Nat had 3 years of kinder. She had 2 years of 4-year-old because she wasn't quite ready to go off to school. She attended the local primary school, and at the end of grade 5 she said she wanted to go to a school with people more like herself, so she went to special school. Previous to that, she'd never been bullied. She'd had a fantastic time at primary school. She went to special school, she was bullied. The principal said to me when I went and complained that was the real world. And also in 18 months she put on 20 kilos at that school, so I just pulled all her $25,000 worth of funding out of the school and just took it to another school, which is what, if any of you ever find any problems, just take them out, because it's you can do that, and it's a nice way of telling them they've done the wrong thing. So Nat then went to another special development school, which was fantastic. The only thing was that was out of the region of where we live, so when it came to doing that transition from school to adult services, they had no idea of any of the options for the particular area we were living in. So when should you start planning? We started planning about 18 months before. This is all going to change soon when the NDIS comes in, but for the moment this was based on, there was a 3-year futures funding plan that you received when your child finished school. So we thought that we'd start looking about 18 months before. And so before I even looked at any of the options, I spoke to all the people that work with Nat. So whether that was carers through respite, or whether it was anyone who worked with her at school, just to see what they thought her potential was. Because sometimes you, as a parent, you don't necessarily see all those areas. And that was really sort of an eye-opener for us. I always thought that Nat might be able to get some work, but she'd had some work experience, and it had been pretty disastrous, because Natalie thinks she knows better than everyone else about everything, and felt that the people who owned the business couldn't possibly know how they should run it, and she would know. So we decided that the best bet for her was to do either a day program or an individual plan. And so we went to DHS and got some of the options, and then we started phoning around to make appointments. And what happened with that was when I would ring and sort of make the appointments with people, I would talk about, the fact that Natalie had Prader-Willi syndrome, and technically they're not allowed to actually tell you that they don't want to have your child at their service, but you got a pretty good idea about whether or not they were happy about it. And so those ones were just crossed off the list. So the list sort of got very, very short. Then I also looked at the fact that a lot of them don't have transport, and I work from home, so it meant that if I wanted her to go to particular services, I would be doing the driving to and from, and depending how far away it was, then that also eliminated some more of the services. I think there's only about 1 or 2 now that actually uses bus service to pick up kids, so the rest of it is either independent travel or you have to drive. So that's other things that you need to take into consideration. I've talked about what options are available. Well, at that time it was everything, it's through DHS. When the NDIS comes in, I think it's going to be a huge learning curve for all of us, because we're so used to fitting into a limited service instead of thinking about really I think you've got to dream big for your kids when that comes in, because it really has the potential to enable them to do so much more than they've ever been able to do before. And I'd actually sort of given up the idea about Nat working until she mellowed. But one of the managers where Natalie attends the day program, she was saying that she felt that Nat could actually work, and one of the areas that we think would be great for her is at a like an old people's home or retirement village, because she's got fantastic memory. She can talk till the cows come home, and so she'd be really good in that situation, and she would love doing it. The only thing is there tend to be quite a lot of food in those areas, or treats, so we would need to have someone come in and volunteer with her for that. But the NDIS can provide all that sort of thing. So I think, there's huge improvements that, and lots of things that you'll be able to do with the NDIS that you just can't do at present. How to prepare everyone once a decision's made. We had trial days when Nat would go down there. She did have a big meltdown at one of them, but one of the managers managed to sort of get her calm and everything, which said to me that it was the perfect place for her to be. We then once we'd made the decision about where she was going, we had all of the staff trained before she'd even got there. And the thing I found is to be the real keystone to it all is open and honest communication. We now work as a real partnership where Natalie is. There'd been a time where Nat was fantastic for the first 3 months, and then she sort of started to realise that she could, kick up fuss about things. And so they called me in, and I was thinking, oh, this is it. They're going to tell me, she can't stay here any longer, because it was a trial period. And we just sort of brainstormed ideas about what was, different ways that we could look at things and how it would be better for Nat and for all the people who worked with her. And that's the way it's always been with us. We always say when something traumatic's happened at home, or there's been arguments or whatever, and they do the same with me, so that we can both judge what's going to happen when she comes home or when she goes to Marriott. So that's been a real success for us. So reflecting on our experience, so many services stop at 18. That will be different with the NDIS. So that's terrible for everybody, because all of a sudden you're having to refund things or look at respite services on top of all this other thing with the transition from school to adult options. Apply well ahead of time for anything, because sometimes funding takes so long to come through. Try to access extra respite when you're doing all these extra things. And I think the biggest thing is to remember to look after yourself. And this is just, anyway, tips for survival, sense of humour, lots of respite. And Natalie now is still in the day program, and she has done things like Meals on Wheels. She's worked in a childcare centre for a couple of days a week. A couple of hours a week, I should say. And she still has her hobbies, crosswords, puzzles, going to the movies and things like that she does. So we're still waiting for the mellowing when she can start work. Thank you.